Bitcoin is doomed. Its price has plummeted down from highs of 126K to lows of 82,000. Yes, there may have been a slight rebound, but all over mainstream media, I'm seeing reports that some of the biggest pro-Bitcoiners out there are now at risk. Some of the biggest Bitcoining mining companies or Bitcoin treasury companies risk liquidation, or worse, having to sell their Bitcoin, which undermines the whole thesis for actually running a Bitcoin treasury company. But is that actually true? Today, we're going to look at a couple of stories, as well as an interesting story that has nothing to do with that from Brazil, which gives an indication as to what is really happening. Welcome to 1% BTC. I'm Dominic, and this is David. And today, we're going to try and separate the narrative from the reality. Once again, none of this is financial advice. We instruct you to consult a fiduciary or financial advisor before making any financial decisions. We are just two guys who love Bitcoin on the internet. Although we try and give you unbiased news, anything that we do and can say can be wrong or incorrect, and even the models that we use can be incorrect at times.
And a reminder to our viewers, we'd love it if you could like, comment, and subscribe to our channel, because it really helps us to create the content and to get really genuine information and valuable information out to you. So please let us know what you'd like in the stories, and if this is useful for you.
And also, if you disagree with any of the outputs of the tool, let us know. Let us know if you disagree. Let us know if you think that we're covering too many bullish things or too many things and that are anti-Bitcoin. Occasionally, we put out stories that are nothing to do with Bitcoin. Earlier this week, we put out one regarding silver. So yeah, just let us know what you want, and we're more than happy to consider it. So into our first story of the day. It's been a while since I've said the name Trump in a headline that hasn't obviously involved the Donald, but obviously today we're actually talking about Eric Trump, specifically the American Bitcoin Corp, which is run by Eric, and the fact is that it fell by nearly 40% in minutes over the past couple of weeks, as part of the broader crypto market decline. Now, this specific headline you see is from our good old friends at the Guardian newspaper, who are notoriously left-leaning. Now, the Guardian frames it as part of a crypto winter and highlights that the Trump family's crypto ventures are collapsing. Yeah. However, the American Bitcoin Corp has simultaneously increased its Bitcoin holdings, becoming a top 25 corporate Bitcoin holder with around 4,367 Bitcoin. So, the narrative manipulation, the tool, has picked up that it's high. The left-leaning Guardian narrative repeatedly emphasizes political framing over market fundamentals, and it shapes a reader perception towards Trump incompetence and crypto winter collapse. The Guardian frames this as emblematic of crypto collapse and personal incompetence and political irony. Now, there is a heavy focus on volatility, investor losses, and the Trump family being overly exposed to speculative assets. Now, obviously, any article like this is meant to bring out fear, mockery, distrust, and there's obviously that selective emphasis on collapse while ignoring the Bitcoin accumulation fundamentals and just omitting broader, wider facts proves that they're trying to push a narrative, or at least that's what the tool has picked up. So what are the actual facts? Well, look, they're not wrong. Yeah, the ABTC did fall 40% intraday, and Bitcoin is down 30% from its October peak, or at least it was at one point. I think it's slightly recovered since this tool ran the story. The article, however, selectively omits certain facts. The event is real, but the framing is incomplete and only partially validated. So ABTC did purchase 363 Bitcoin, which is approximately $34 million. And it actually increased its holdings. So this is despite that massive fall in price. But the Guardian admits that. The share collapse coincided with a broad crypto market drawdowns. And overall, the Trump administration ties may influence future items. But basically, it seems to me like the Guardian and other certain other publications are trying to put forward political linkages with Bitcoin and with cryptocurrency and not focus on the operational fundamentals. It's being used and caught in the crossfire as a way to target the Trumps and the Republican Party. So, based on the fact, I'm going to give you the two, let's focus on the two things from the facts, David, and I'll pose it to you. Fact, they were right. It did go down 40% in a day. And I'm sorry, but even in the world of crypto, even in the world of the most speculative, banana, meme, crazy coin, the most useless coin, 40% intraday is not a move that I expect from a company, let alone a company in any way associated with the president of the free, indirectly associated, I should say, with the president of the free world.
Yeah.
However, they did go and purchase more Bitcoin, and not an insignificant amount, 363 Bitcoin. So firstly, where are you leaning with this? Do you think that overall the tool is going to bring it out as positive or negative overall? Obviously, the narrative is negative. The narrative is highly negative, but where are you leaning?
Yeah, well, the thing is, Eric Trump has been very supportive of Bitcoin, and he's been using also the Trump name and his father's kind of political clout and influence, and it's an example of riding the wave with the Bitcoin wave. And so people could consider it like a rug pull, where you're creating all this hype just to promote your own coin, your own investments, right? And a lot of probably investors would see this as, well, a betrayal of a rug pull. So this is quite negative. But considering he's bought the dip, right, or their investment has bought the dip, it's quite bullish.
I'll give you one more fact that the tool pulled out. Yeah, it did pull out that in Q3 that the company had a positive revenue and profitability. So it made a profit of 3.5 million income on 64 million revenue. So like, they're buying the dip, they're profitable. Yes, they had this huge crash. There has been some recovery since then, but fundamentally, does it affect Bitcoin? That's what the score is saying, is how much does this story affect Bitcoin?
I'm going to say initially the news is supposed to kind of destroy the sentiment, kind of to spread bearish sentiment about Bitcoin. But this is ultimately bullish for Bitcoin, just because.
Bullish.
Yeah, because so I'd give it a 1, maybe a 2, because it basically, he's doubling down. He's basically saying, I still support this, even though we've corrected and the wider market has corrected. I'm still doubling down and supporting the growth of this asset.
So I'll be honest with you, I thought exactly the same thing. I scored this a 1 as well. I thought it's going to be close to neutral, because the facts ideally will cancel out the any negative sentiment. But unfortunately, the negative sentiment is pretty strong with this one. The tying to the president's son and the effect that narrative has long term is short term at the moment means that it's actually negative. Now, in terms of how bad, that you can see the reality of the situation is that even if this plays out, the reality is only a -1.8. This is not in any way going to affect Bitcoin's long-term longevity. But right now, it's a -1.3 because it's all over the headlines. It is having a meaningful impact. Trump's name is all over the headlines with Bitcoin company falls 40% within a couple of minutes. That has a big impact. So what the tool, however, has picked up, is that although the crash doesn't affect Bitcoin at all, long term. Yes, this score is obviously right now the -1.3. But the fact that it's kind of associating it with sort of like an altcoin, it's making treasury companies overall seem as an altcoin, is why it has scored low. What does matter is the bigger picture, however, which reports suggest that the Trump family now holds up to 60% of their net worth in Bitcoin, and that Eric Trump accumulating Bitcoin fits into a rapidly emerging pro-Bitcoin political ecosystem around the Trump family. So his circle, what the tool has picked up, includes some of the most crypto-friendly figures in US finance policy. So like Howard Lutnick, who's the ex-CEO of Cantor Fitzgerald, and one of Tether's key partners. You've got Vivek Ramaswamy. You've got Peter Thiel, who are these aligned advisors. So you're really starting to see all these figureheads emerge around the Trumps. Yeah, which means that overall, this story will eventually probably go into a nothing burger completely. And it may even flip into a positive. Purely focusing on just that, it is a minus. Now, while we're on the subject, obviously one thing that is overlooked, I think, is that the Trump team is also closely tied with David's best friend, Michael Saylor. Who, for those of you that don't know, I mean, we talk about him all the time, but the largest corporate Bitcoin holder. And he's actively promoting a US strategic Bitcoin reserve. Yeah. So that's an idea that the Trump officials have reportedly entertained. And adding that the Trump administration has passed acts before, like the Stablecoins Act, like the Trump's executive order around the Bitcoin Strategic Reserve Act. It's kind of like there's an underpinning here. So you're going to get articles targeting it. So articles using Bitcoin and using crypto as attack vectors. So because Trump's name is so large, any attempt to associate him is obviously going to cause a short-term negative impact. So the way I would look at it is, overall, what the tool has picked up is that its stock price crashing is just noise. The signal that you should pay attention to, despite this, is that the Trump family and its inner circle appear to be aligning politically, financially, and strategically around Bitcoin itself. And that's far more meaningful for Bitcoin's long-term trajectory than any meme token collapse. However, it's still slightly negative due to the perception it creates in people's mind who don't understand the bigger picture or the moves that the big players are making. So negative, but no, by no means, this is one that we're probably going to ignore. Obviously, if the tool flags in the next few weeks that there's some dramatic effect, maybe Eric sells in the entire holdings, maybe Trump comes out and says, no, not interested, don't support Bitcoin anymore, then obviously this score would increase massively. It would decrease massively. But for right now, we're putting it in the FUD pile and just to ignore.
I think that's a good category to put it in. At the end of the day, I mean, ABTC is a miner that hold roughly 4,000 Bitcoin, right?
Yeah.
So that's quite a large amount still. And this is, you look at all the miners in the space, all the Bitcoin miners, they're having to sell during this downturn, and they're just survive. But they're holding. A lot of them are holding, even though their share prices have taken a beating. They continue over the long term. They're gonna weather the storm.
That's it. And from what I can see, the tool's picked up that, and this is one thing that I haven't verified in the past couple of days, but the last time I checked and the tool has identified this, is that the number of corporate Bitcoin treasuries, both in terms of total amount of Bitcoin held and in terms of number of Bitcoin treasuries, is still increasing. ABTC, yes, it's now moved into the top 25, and yes, it's had this real negative news event, and yes, the wider treasury companies, whether they're miners or other types of treasuries, are getting hit, but the number is still expanding, and the total amount of Bitcoin held, they're both still going in the right direction. So I would focus on that personally, and the tool has highlighted that. And on that note, guys, I think that's a perfect time to remind you that if you don't keep your eyes on what these different states are doing, you are going to be the ones who are going to risk missing it. Because don't forget, most people will miss it, most people will mock it, and most people will wait until it's too late. But the 1%, they act with conviction.
Be a 1%er. Thanks, folks.
Thank you.
Bye.